anybody see Ben's umbrella act from last weekend? If you
we did.
If you haven't seen
yes,
that,
we did.
if you haven't seen that, you need to. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen done with a horse. But you'll see where the ballet and the stage stuff and the horsemanship and the whole bit came together.
And the misspent youth.
Yeah, and the fishnets. I was a very unremarkable child, put it that way. As far as I wasn't good at sports, I was pretty good academically, I think, but I wasn't good at sports. So, like when I don't know if they do it in the UK, but in Australia, when in school, you're going to have it, we're going to play whatever you're going to play, soccer or what you call it, football. Like we'll pick two captains and they will pick, one kid. So I was always one of the last sort of kids to be picked. Everything's come along from saying yes to opportunities that arose. Your dad didn't go, I want to train movie horses. He's like, I want to make a buck.
Yeah.
It's something I can do. And initially it was the writing lessons, then it was the reenactment, and then it was the film thing. And my life's been pretty much the same. Nothing I'm doing these days I planned. I was a horse trainer. And then I think there's a great principle in life. There's a magic to the act of giving with no thought of getting anything back from that particular act. And I think it's a very pure act that if there's any, it almost reads you like a horse does. If there's any deception to it, there's any underlying, I'm really going to get something out of this, it doesn't work. There's not enough time to come up with these three things. But I'd say number one would be curious. Number two would be something I've only just discovered on this journey I'm on. Curious, sensitive, and let's say fearful. There's some horses that people think they're kind of lazy, and a lot of times horses that actually are lazy are in that shutdown state and they don't have access to energy. And one of the reasons I got picked last for any athletic things because I didn't have access to energy. And so this horse really made me realise that actually, if you get to the end of it, that I've always been very, very, very sensitive. I realised that, some people are competitive because they want to test themselves. I realised during that year that I'd been competing for external validation. If I win something, they will think more of me. And sometime, I think during that year, I came to the realisation, I don't need other people's external validation. So, I don't really compete anymore, but it's not that people that are competing are bad people and they've got the wrong reasons. Everybody's got their reasons for doing it, but I understood the reason I was doing it. And it's kind of like, I asked you that question, Ben, do you know why you do these things? And if you don't, it's an interesting thing to actually ponder, because you might find out something that you didn't know, and it actually might change the course of your life. Maybe you'll do things differently. So yeah, it's just it was an interesting revelation for me to understand both those things, that the people that I thought were cool and could do things I couldn't do, a lot of them had the same inner turmoil that led them to do it. So they weren't really any better off than I was. So if you guys have got some resistance, maybe what Ben just shared with you might help you go, it's not just me. And I think a lot of times the it's just me story overpowers the other part of the stuckness. And once you can get rid of that, I think you can maybe, head off on your journey. You cannot figure out what this horse needs if you assume, you make an assumption you know what this horse needs. You've got to be present and listening. And if something doesn't work, you kind of got to take a step back and okay, what else can I try? What was the question?
Something you've learned or relearned recently when we're told that horses teach us something every day.
pretty much what both these guys said. But earlier in the year, I learnt something I didn't know. Was I did a 500-kilometre survival race in Patagonia on horseback called the Gaucho Derby. It's insane. But every day on that race, I learnt that horses are capable of climbing up and down things that we didn't think they could climb up and down with a rider on. And Ben mentioned Dan James before, a friend of mine from Australia, lives in America. Amazing horseman, and he was on it with me too, and he was just like, we got separated at the start line, didn't see each other for 5 days, but we did see each other. Like, these horses, like, every day they just tell you how capable a horse that hasn't been bred off into a corner for a specific human ego thing, but like real horses. These are the horses the gauchos ride. They grow up in this area, and they are such amazing creatures who can do. And a horse should never be lame. If those horses aren't lame, Patagonia is a pole of rocks. If those horses aren't lame, there shouldn't be lame horses. Am I allowed to say something that might be considered sexist?
Go for it. Go on. Bring it on. Bring it on.
So, and I talk about this at clinics, and I'm trying to make a point. But I say, you might notice that a lot of people who are in the training business, especially these teaching people how to train horses, they're in the problem-solving business with horses or whatever, are men. And I says, because...
This is going to be good, isn't it?
This is going to be good. If we want to be in close contact with the opposite sex, we have to start out where they are and give them what they want before we can get what we want. Whereas women, if they want whatever, they can go, and it's like, okay. And the point I try to make with that is I try to tell, most people you're dealing with, like in a clinic situation, are women, and I say, the shoe's on the other foot. You're the man and the horse is the woman. And you've got goals you want to reach with them, but you can't go straight to those goals. You have to have the first date, the second date. You have to be empathetic. You can get what you want in the end.
I mean, would you like a digger instead of a spade?
Driving from the airport this afternoon, so Wendy picked me up from the airport, we drove along, and I saw some horses standing in the field under a tree, and one of them, when we drove by, it's funny, I looked at him and I thought, if that horse is... So he's under a tree with his friends, with a foot cocked. And I looked at him and I thought, if that horse's head and face were on a picture on social media, someone would be saying how bad a rider the rider was. And this horse was standing under a tree in a field with his friends. And he just kind of happened to have that, he's Australian, American, British, and a little bit Irish and Southern American. I had some producers from LA contact me about 10 years ago, wanted to do a reality show on me, and they came up and they filmed a pilot for it. And when I saw it, it's like, oh, they're trying to turn me into somebody I'm not. Yeah. So it was a no.
Okay, celebrity crush.
Warwick Schiller.
Fabulous.
Late 90s Jennifer Love Hewitt.
That's so very specific.
I wouldn't know what she looks like these days, but there was a time there where I thought that was perfection.